Welcome to Strategic Transformations with Nikki. I'm your host, Nikki Cates, and I am thrilled to have you join us on this empowering journey. This is the podcast where we dive deep into the art of strategizing, transforming, and empowering women both in life and at work. Each episode will explore the powerful intersection of transformational coaching, life strategies, professional development, and personal growth. Whether you're a leader, an inspiring entrepreneur, or someone striving for more in your personal life, this podcast is your go-to resource for actionable insights and inspiring stories. So get ready to unleash your potential, overcome challenges, and create the life and career you've always dreamed of. Let's strategize, transform, and empower together. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Strategic Transformations with Nikki Cates Miller. And this month, we're continuing to explore the 3 P's of transformation: peace, prosperity, and purpose. Last week, we dove into the concept of peace, focusing on inner peace and its arch enemy, survival mode. If you missed that episode, I encourage you to go and check that out today. I will touch on it briefly on this one, but we're really going to dive into the second P, which would be prosperity. First, I want to thank you for your support and for listening in. I hope that this has been helpful in some way for you listening to these episodes. Always consider that if you have the time, go to my website, www.nikkicates.com, and do some reading, because a lot of times I dive a lot deeper when I write the articles, because that's truly where my passion lies, is putting my thoughts to page. So I would encourage you, when you have the free time, to also read the articles or the blog posts that are focusing on these same topics, so that you can get a deeper dive into the topic and the theme that we're talking about in that moment. Knowing who I am and how I operate has been the biggest attribution to my own personal transformations and breakthrough. I can't express it enough. I just had another example this week. I had been feeling kind of funky and disconnected. The old Nikki ways of self-isolation were trying to kick back in. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to push myself and I'm going to show up on this group call that I had avoided the previous 2 weeks ago. So I hopped on the call and I was completely honest. And my mentor said off the jump that he could tell that my energy was different, which made me feel a little uneasy that it was that obvious. But then again, I was glad that I have people around me that can say, hey, something's not right here. And this wasn't like my best friend who talks to me on a regular basis and can pick up on it that way. This was someone that I might see once or twice a month via Zoom. Like, they don't know me that well, but they could pick up that my energy was off. So I'm grateful for that. I did a quick reel this morning, just talking about community and self-discovery. And this is why. Having those types of people around us and cultivating those relationships. When I say cultivate, I mean showing up, being grateful for them, being humble in them, being teachable, being willing to listen and not just be heard, going out of your way to maintain them. These are all things that I would say would fall under cultivating a relationship. But without those types of relationships, we can get away with our foolishness for a very long time, y'all. And I did for years. I kept talking about how I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I want to be a writer and God called me to this, that, and the other. It was all talk, y'all. Nobody was around me to hold me accountable. Everyone that was around me at that season of my life was okay with me just talking about it and then going behind my back and talking about how I keep talking about something I'm never going to do. And that's facts. So I encourage you to consider your community. Who are you placing around you? Listen, if it's not your blood or your old school friends or your current friend circle, go out and find it. Trust me, you will be so glad you did. John Maxwell talks about growth environments. We need growth environments. We need optimal growing the factors that allow us to grow. We need that, just like a plant. If you don't provide the right temperature, the right sustenance, your plants will die. Shout out to Shop Love Farms, and I think it's the real Shar Johnson is her Instagram. I actually have on my Plant Queen shirt today that she sent me. But I learned through her, like the love that we have to give our plants in order for them to thrive. Our relationships are the same way. Our business is the same way. Walking in our purpose is the same way. You have to be intentional and you have to do it. And these 3 Ps require that same type of focus, that same type of sacrifice, that same type of cultivation, understanding that same type of knowledge. So I'm encouraging you to take that into consideration as you're going into this next week. Do some self-reflecting and see if you are being diligent in this way. Are you being diligent in understanding who you are and how you show up in this world, in the workplace, in the marketplace, in every way possible, how you show up in every space with every hat and role that you carry and wear? Are you showing up as yourself, or are you showing up as the version that others expect of you? That makes a huge difference. I had to realize that I have been blessed with these people in my life to hold me accountable to being who I am. I need that because while I do it for others, I need others to do it for me. And I will be perfectly honest with y'all. I had been struggling the last few weeks, and I needed someone to bring me back to ground zero and say, hey, something's off. I think you need to go back to ground zero yourself. And literally, he started asking me questions. Okay, so did you take this assessment? Did you take that assessment? Well, what are the results? Well, what do you think? Are you seeing where I'm going here? And I was like, yes, I see. So yes, I am an introvert. Yes, I think very deeply about things and I feel very passionate about things. Yes, my strengths are strategy and learning and intellectual things. And I need action because action matters a whole lot to me. I'm an activator. I have to see things get into motion. I knew all of these things. I know my core values: faith, family, freedom, courage, authenticity, self-care, inner peace. Like, I know my core values. Like, I know my energy zones. I know when I can optimize the most and when I need to do the things that matter the most to make sure that they get done. But he suggested another assessment for me to take, the Colby A Index. I've never even heard of that one, and I'm in this space. How did I miss that one? I've taken the DISC assessment, like Myers-Briggs, what's the other one? The Big Five. Like, I've taken so many assessments, just seeing what helps me so that I can be a guide into what can help you. And when I tell y'all I took that assessment and it blessed me all over again, like I had just restarted my whole self-discovery process, because I learned some things about myself that I didn't quite realize. For instance, I am not a cognitive thinker, and I also don't flow solely from my emotions, even though I thought I did at one point. I am a cognitive thinker. I have a cognitive mind, which means that I need to sense purpose and connection and instinct and intuition towards whatever it is that I am doing. If I don't have that, it drains my energy instead of fueling it, which is freaking amazing because it makes so much sense now why I've been feeling drained. So do you see what I'm saying? Understanding yourself is a huge benefit to understanding how to make these changes instead of just saying on the surface level, let me just make this change. Y'all, we know that doesn't work. Willpower is not enough. If you don't do the real work and you don't ask for help, it's not going to be sustainable. So I encourage you to consider the people that you have around you and what do you know about yourself and how you're showing up in the world? And how do you optimize that in order to get to where you believe that you should be going? I hope that helps somebody. That is not what we were talking about today, but I really wanted to share that with y'all because I love that I keep getting reminded of these things. I never want to be the person that is teaching something and has lost complete connection to what it is that she is teaching. So I want to make sure that when I come before y'all, that I am being authentic and I am being congruent in who I am and how I show up in this world. So if y'all meet me and you don't know me personally and you've seen me online and you meet me in person, you can see I am that same person regardless. That is my desire. And I like to thank Dr. Cindy Trim for that, because her 40-day soul fast brought that word congruency into my life. And I have been praying for it and aspiring to it ever since. So just giving you some little nuggets to think about as you do your journaling and reflection this weekend to go into the next week. So let's get back on prosperity, y'all. What is prosperity? Is it really what you want? Are you aspiring to the right aspects of prosperity? And how does it feel to live with a poverty mindset and lifestyle? Most importantly, how can you shift from poverty mode to prosperity and abundance? So last week we were shifting out of survival mode into peace. This week we're going to be shifting out of poverty mode into prosperity and abundance. And I'm using both of those words because they are not interchangeable, and we'll talk about why. So let's tackle these today. I'll give you some questions. Later today, you'll see a journal prompt or coaching question that will come through. And I encourage you to journal about it and then join me on Friday night so we can talk about it, okay? All right, so let's get started. While all cultures and ethnicities have pockets of people who live in poverty, marginalized communities statistically and historically have greater numbers of women, children, and households living in lack and poverty. In the United States of America, this looks like every single group of people that is not of European descent. Every group of people that is not of European descent has a greater chance of either living their whole lives either in poverty or not far from it. Not to say that people of European descent do not live in poverty. We know that is not true. That is not my premise right now. But what I am saying is those considered marginalized and insignificant and second-rated citizens and people in the United States tend to have a greater number of families and households living in lack and poverty. And let's be real here, y'all. There is no greater thief of peace than struggling to provide for yourself and your loved ones and survival. So to understand this shift from lack to abundance, we need to refer to a psychological concept that most of us have heard of, which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, if you're not familiar with this, please go ahead and Google it so you can see what this pyramid looks like. Most of us have seen it at some point or another because all of us are pretty much saying the same things out here when it comes to personal development, personal growth, and all these different things. If you go to my blog, you will see that I have posted an image of this pyramid. But my point of using this is that the base and the foundations of this pyramid of life are related to this shift from lack to abundance. It's about moving from just surviving to truly thriving. I came across a statistic. I posted this on my social medias. I think it was earlier this week. And basically, I was watching an interview and the gentleman said that he had heard a statistic or read a statistic that the top 1% of the globe, the world's people, we're talking about the whole collective, not just one country or one group of people. The world is a collective. The top 1% of humans, their average income is $32,000 a year. That is mind-boggling in the United States of America, the country of capitalism, right? And excess and extreme and greed. $32,000, you can't live off of that here in this country. So to us, that sounds crazy. But when you think about the millions, maybe even billions of people across the globe, not just in the United States of America, that live below what we would call the poverty line. Think about that for a minute. Most of us listening to this episode are well above $32,000, right? And if you're not, then you understand better than anyone what I'm talking about. And trust me, I've been there. We'll just say that. I have been there. I have had more repossessions and evictions and utility shut off than anyone would like to admit. Been there and done that for many years. And I'm telling you, it will steal your joy. It will make joy impossible. It's a huge hit to your confidence. It's a thief of peace. So we want to address this elephant in the room, okay? So let's talk about the characteristics of a poverty mindset, which would be said elephant. This mindset includes scarcity thinking, believing there is never enough, risk aversion, avoiding risks due to fear of failure or loss, blame and victimhood, blaming external factors or others for their situation. Y'all, there may be some social factors and injustices and inequality built into our systems. However, every problem is not the man. We have some responsibility too. Just FYI, in case you needed to hear that. Short-term focus, prioritizing our immediate needs over long-term goals. Low self-worth, feeling undeserving of success and prosperity. Comparison and envy. Oh, thanks to social media, this one is probably in more beast mode than anything else. Frequently comparing ourselves to others and feeling envious. Fixed mindset, believing abilities and intelligence are static and cannot be changed. Okay, you were dealt these cards and it just is what it is. Wrong. Focus on problems, dwelling on problems rather than seeking solutions. These are just some examples of characteristics that can keep individuals like us in a cycle of lack and struggle, making it incredibly difficult to break free and achieve true prosperity and abundance. And most of us, I'm going to say most of us, because there's more people that's struggling than there are of thriving. I don't have that statistically. That is an assumption, but I think it's probably fairly accurate. Think about it for a moment. Even if you come from an environment, which I did, where your vital years of conditioning were engulfed with lack and poverty and scarcity, think about this. Whose responsibility is it when you become of age and it's time for you to live the life that you were put here to live? I made a lot of excuses over the years. I spent my 20s blaming it on everybody but myself. In my 30s, I started taking some responsibility. Then it was like, okay, Lord, now how do I change this? Because I do not want to see my children relive this. All of us have to come to that place, and I am hoping, just like with my own daughters, I am praying and hoping and leading by example that decision right there has to be made a lot sooner than your 30s. Now, granted, if you're already there, listen, be kind to yourself and to others. All of us are on a different journey here. We don't want to generalize anything, but what I'm saying is the sooner we can encourage an answer that makes sense, which the answer is, the correct answer is, it's no one else's responsibility but our own. No matter what we weren't taught, what we didn't see, what trauma we may have experienced, we have the free will to break free of those chains and find our own way. We do. We do. God has given us that. So if that be the case, I am a strong advocate for changes of environment. Strongly. Sometimes just for a few hours, a half a day, a whole day, a week. For me, this looks like years. Unfortunately for some, I removed myself from the South for 7 years to work on this. Now, that's not what I'm encouraging you to do. But what I am saying is a change of environment and a shift in the people that you allow around you makes a huge difference. Life-changing. So I encourage you to consider that as we're talking about this, okay? All right. So now let's contrast the characteristics of someone with a prosperity or abundance mindset. Abundant thinking. believing there is plenty to go around, willingness to take risks, embracing risk as a part of growth and opportunity. And can I just segue right here? Entrepreneurship is a risk. Not easy, extremely difficult, and will not produce immediately. So it is very risky because you have to put it in order to get it out. Accountability and empowerment, taking responsibility for their actions and the outcomes. It's no one else's fault at this point. I am responsible for what I do, how I think, and how I act. That's what we're talking about here. Long-term vision, planning for the future and setting long-term goals. High self-worth, feeling deserving of success and prosperity. Appreciation and generosity. This is where gratitude falls in, feeling genuinely happy for others' success. Growth mindset, believing abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort. Listen, we can grow. We can develop ourselves. No, we are not naturally born to operate at our optimal level. It's a process to get there. Just realize that, and you will be moving in a growth mindset. Focus on solutions, not problems, not issues, not circumstances. Solutions. Actively seeking solutions and opportunities for growth. And can I tell y'all, doing this article, researching, pulling it all together, I, again, like last week, had to come face to face with the areas where I am still working on myself and God is still working on me to come out of a poverty mindset. It is not easy to break, and it is something that requires consistency. It requires mindfulness, practicing mindfulness, keeping your thoughts in the present instead of thinking that you're always going to be the way you've always been and so are things in the past, or thinking too far into the future, which I tend to do as a visionary. But what are we doing in the present to get there? And that's what I have to remind myself of when it comes to this topic, as well as survival mode, because I want to be at peace and enjoy life while I'm walking towards where I believe that I'm going. Okay, so I hope that helps somebody. I am not alone in this world. I know I'm not, but neither are you. And just because I'm teaching this to you does not mean that I do not have to apply these lessons for myself. So be blessed, sis. So I have went over those two things, but I want to cover something real quick before we talk about how to make that shift from poverty mindset to abundance mindset and a prosperous lifestyle. I want to talk about the difference between prosperity and abundance, and I want to say it's very similar to the difference we talked about previously of transparency and authenticity, right? Transparency means on a surface level, you can just be free to talk about, be open to discussion and to share things about yourself. This doesn't mean that you've done the time and the effort to be self-aware and to know who you are at your core and what you really stand for and all of these things. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is the holistic approach, the whole big picture of everything, right? When you're being authentic, you're not just being forthcoming with information. You're being forthcoming with who you are, what you stand for. You're being completely open and clear about what you're sharing. You're not just sharing something on the surface level. So when we're talking about prosperity versus abundance, we're talking about prosperity focuses on the things that we would normally think of, right? Money, resources, opportunities. But abundance is a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's a way to live holistically, not just things, tangible things that we can see, touch, feel. We're talking about a way of thinking. We're talking about blessings coming forth unexpectedly. We're talking about an abundance of love and an abundance of peace, an abundance of joy, an abundance of relationships that pour into you and you pour into them, and an abundance of energy to give back out and love to give back out. We're talking about good health. We're talking about genuine wealth, not just riches, but wealth. Okay. So those are the difference between the two. Prosperity is a part of abundance, but in and of itself, it is not abundance. I hope that helps a little bit, y'all. It's always where you go from this point, this one point, to this whole, I'm going to say umbrella concept. And so you would have abundance would be a whole umbrella, right? Authenticity is a whole umbrella. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to explain it as simple as possible, okay? So now let's talk about how to make that shift to move from a poverty mindset to an abundance mindset and a prosperous lifestyle. Here are some practical steps. Awareness. Y'all gonna get sick of me because I'm gonna keep shouting awareness and discovery from the mountaintops because I believe in it that firmly. How we show up in the world is how others see us, treat us, and how life responds to our presence. Recognize your limiting beliefs about money, opportunities, and your self-worth. For many years, I didn't think I was worth success, prosperity, or abundance. I was flowing from a place of self-hate and regret. All those negative things that hold us down, weigh us down like weights. And if you feel like you're drowning, can you imagine? I'm sure you can, what that feels like. You have to let those weights go. You have to break those chains. You can't fly like that. You can't fly with broken wings. But all of us have dreams of flying in some way, whether that's entrepreneurship, whether that's our career, whether that's financial freedom, whatever that looks like, y'all, for you. Success is defined by you. Happiness is defined by you. But you have to recognize the things that are weighing you down and keeping you bound and oppressing you and liberate yourself. That requires awareness. So I encourage you to start journaling about these things. You'll start to identify patterns and triggers. And I'm going to say this in a minute, but surrounding yourself with positive people. I just said this earlier, community. Have a community, create it. I had to create it for myself. It had to be created because the people around me were not able to provide it. I think now that I've moved forward in life and I've become healed and whole, that it's helping them to become more of what I needed. But I had to go out and find these people, y'all. And you're going to have to do the same thing. You're going to have to find them, okay? And they will help you to be more aware. God gave us 2 eyes and 2 ears. We can't see behind us. We can't see from above a bird's eye view. Only He can see all. And He gives us others to help us see from the angles we cannot. Who has your 6, as we say in the military? Who's watching your back? Sometimes you got to go out and find those people. All right. I digress. I stayed on that one too long. Positivity and gratitude. You have to use gratitude to shift your focus from lack to the abundance of what you do have. That's the key, okay? If you're anything like me, I spent a long time looking at what I didn't have, and I missed out on what I did. Sometimes when my daughters are talking about certain things from the past, I don't regret it, but I have to admit that I don't quite remember because I was in a complete fog. I was in a fog when I was raising my girls. I was a young mother, a young wife, completely miserable with myself. And when you're living in a fog like that and living with undiagnosed depression and anxiety, severe depression, you lose the ability to experience joy. You lose the ability to remember and take in the moments, right? For a long time, I could only remember the struggle. But I was raising 4 beautiful daughters. I hate that sometimes when I think about it, but I have decided to have no regrets. Who I am today is who is going to help me to reproduce in this world the opposite. And so I accept that. I accept that and I embrace it. And I apologize to them when it comes up because I'm being real, right? Okay. Be mindful. Mindfulness and visualization. Be mindful of your thoughts and visualize abundance. Instead of letting your mind wander to negative scenarios, consciously choose to visualize positive outcomes. Truth is, and I really came to understand this more even though I kind of knew it, was watching one of Dr. Cindy Trim's YouTube videos. She was teaching on critical thinking in our minds. And she talked about how our thinking is actually constructed in imagery. And I thought about it and I said, wow, that's true. You don't typically see words. You see images. You hear voices. You see faces. You see landscapes, whatever it is you're thinking about. You see the scenarios play out in your mind as images. I'm not even going to say we, I'm going to say I have had a tendency to replay images of things that have been harmful, painful, annoying, disappointing. We can choose to no longer allow those thoughts to continue to play. We can push pause and eject at any moment, y'all. Okay, listen, on streaming, you don't eject. So I just told my age. CDs, DVDs, VHS tapes, eject. Okay, listen, pause, stop, eject, exit out of those thoughts and those images that you're seeing in your mind that continue to keep you in a loop of what you don't have or what has hurt you, harmed you, or thrown you into a negative space. It takes diligence, it takes intention, and it takes time, y'all. I'm not asking you to wake up tomorrow and then all of a sudden you just have this prowess ability to control your thoughts and visualize only positive things, rose-colored glasses. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just being intentional and start to recognize it, and it will get easier and easier to bounce yourself back, okay? Positive village and continuous learning. We just talked about this. Surrounding yourself with positive influence and continuously seeking knowledge. Having people around you that will hold you accountable. We need that, y'all. We need people that understand how we are, who we are. Let us be our authentic selves. Love us the way we are, but still hold us accountable when we're not keeping it real, when we're not showing up as who we should show up. The reason why my mentor understood that my energy was different because I did not show up with that smile on my face. I did not show up with my lighting on point. I did not show up ready to jump into that conversation because I was not in the same space in the moment. And he recognized that woman that is hungry and eager for success and ambitious, she did not show up on that call yesterday. That is not who showed up. Who showed up was, woe is me, I'm not feeling this, I'm just getting by. No, I needed him to call me on that. And I needed it to be someone that doesn't know me that well, because someone that really knows me, one of my best friends, they can say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? And, maybe they might ask, are you, feeling depressive? How's that going? I didn't need that in that moment. I needed someone to kick me in my tail like I do for others. And so you need to put those type of people around you, and you have to be open and teachable and willing to listen and willing to learn. Okay? I promise you, changing your environment can have massive positive effect on your mindset, and having people around you to encourage this. It's life-changing. It's course-altering. Okay? All right, last one. Management. Learning to manage your resources effectively. And I want to say this very clearly. This does not just include money, health, relationships, and opportunities. This includes yourself, life, and self-management, self-leadership. Okay? Which is why I teach about this consistently. I have some digital courses that we're pulling together on these topics so we can put it out there. And I'm going to be doing coaching groups, and you'll have access to the courses. We're creating a membership community where you can access all of this. Listen, y'all, we keep trying to scratch the surface on the things that we want to change in our lives, like money, health, relationships, and business and professional opportunities. But we're not learning how to moderate ourselves. And we're not learning how to manage ourselves, our emotions, our thoughts, our mindsets, our attitudes, how we utilize the resources that are given to us, the people, the relationships, the opportunities, the finances, the material things. We're not even organizing our own space, but we want someone else to give us a corner office and expect us to keep it clean and do all the things that we need to do in order to keep that corner office. If you cannot do that in your personal life, how are you going to do that on another level? Okay? So management, y'all. Management. Leadership. Okay? Just think about those two words for me. Hop on Friday night and let's talk about it, because I have talked to several women, more than a few, that don't think they're leaders, when in reality, they are. Just not in the ways that they're thinking. So embrace a mindset that values management and be willing to make tough choices, relevant sacrifices, and establishing boundaries that will align with your values and where you're going. Okay? So I hope that is helpful for you. I really do. Let me know what you think, okay? So we already talked about prosperity and abundance. They are not interchangeable. So we've already covered that. So I'm not even going to go back over that again because we've already been there. But let me know what you all think. Remember to always start with yourself. The only common denominator between your life, your relationships, your career, your finances, all of that, your church, the only common denominator in all of that is you. I was going to say the Lord, but some of us don't let him in on certain areas. Even if he is there, we don't allow him to move on our behalf in certain parts of our life, which we should, because that optimizes our abilities to succeed and to be at peace and to be fulfilled. But let's just keep it at its simplest basics right now. You are the common denominator in all of those environments. So what are you doing to ensure that you have peace and that you're releasing peace out into the world, and that you're thinking with a prosperous and abundant mindset so that you can shift away from survival mode and poverty and scarcity mindset and thinking? That is life-changing, y'all. So I hope that this was a blessing to you. I'm going to wrap up this episode. Remember that adopting an abundance mindset and a prosperous lifestyle starts with you. It requires God awareness, and intentional self-awareness. All right? Life is so much better with peace, y'all. I've come to love peace. I feel like it's almost everything. All right? It's more than enough to keep our world entertaining, impactful, and fulfilling. And we can put it back out into the world. We can reproduce it. That's what's going to make the world a better place. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me today on Strategic Transformations with Nikki. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with others. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Next week, we'll be talking about the third P. We already talked about peace. We already talked about prosperity. Next, we're going to be talking about purpose. All right, y'all. And then that last week of this month, we're going to be talking about holistic harmony, bringing it all together. And I'm going to have a special guest on with me. And we're also doing a Zoom call to talk about these things, to answer your questions, and to have a conversation where you all can interact with us on June 27th at 6:30 p.m. You can register on our Facebook group, you can register on Meetup, or you can register on Eventbrite. If you're not sure which one of those you want to go through, just go to my website, www.nikkicates.com. All right? If you have any issues, shoot me a message or an email, and I will talk to you soon. This is Nikki signing off. Have a fantastic week. And make sure you do your journal prompts and get your intentions ready for next week. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Strategic Transformations with Nikki. I hope you found today's discussion both insightful and inspiring. Remember, transformation isn't just a destination, it's a journey, and every step you take brings you closer to the empowered life you envision. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other amazing women in your network. For more resources, strategies, and to stay connected with me, follow me on social media at I am Nikki Cates, and visit my website at www.nikkicates.com. Don't forget to join our community of like-minded women who are dedicated to strategizing, transforming, and empowering each other every day. Until next time, keep strategizing, keep transforming, and keep empowering yourself and those around you. You have the power to create incredible change in your life and work. I'm Nikki signing off. Stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next episode.